it like this.
Hmm.
You might think it's a lot of different things. You probably wouldn't think it's a flashlight, right?
Okay.
And if we never talked about what it was, from your perception, you're getting this. You're getting only part of the essence of this object, right? So to speak. You're getting this much access to so much of it. You know it's probably metal, looks metal. You can't actually touch it. You can't. You're looking at an image of it. So okay, but yada yada yada. But the point is, the it the object in your frame of reference is going to be the essence of it will be something that's metallic that's used to block the camera. It's not going to be flashlight, right?
You
And
know, sorry, sorry,
and so
sorry.
and so yeah, you can't change what it is in terms of you can't make it have different qualities, but you can determine whether or not it fits into a set differently depending on which of those qualities you're looking at and focusing on. If we're looking at this flashlight, you might focus on the fact that it's blue and put it in a set of blue things. You might focus on the fact that it provides light, put it in a set of things that provide light. You might focus on the fact that it's heavy and can be used to bash people in the head, you put it in a set
Yeah,
of
but we
clubs.
don't do that though.
Well,
You could
absolutely we do.
possibly do that. Okay, but what I'm saying in that particular example, you could utilize the flashlight like that and put it in front of me and sort of skew my perception of it to think it isn't a flashlight. But that would be a false truth. That's not what it actually would be. What it actually would be a flashlight. It's sort of like Plato's myth of the cave, right? That'd be the shadow of what the actual objects were.
But what makes it a flashlight?
I just want to add, like, where it seems we're going with this is in order to create a model of something, in order to create a model of perception of some kind, you need to have some constant object behind that model. In this case, a flashlight. And no matter how much that model might change, you're still modeling a flashlight.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I'm arguing for.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but my point is there's no reason to believe that we are talking about a constant object.
Why not?
There's none whatsoever. Because there's not a single example of two people seeing the exact same object. We can't see it from the same exact angle.
But we both
Well,
perceive it as the same thing, therefore.
right, because we have this ability to take things as similar sets of data, of similar objects, and call them the same, give them a distinct identity, and form that set around it.
Hmm.
And we share language as a way for us to compare our respective sets against each other and say, oh yeah, we're talking about the same thing. We're talking about an object used to make light or whatever. And so then if I call it something else, if I call it a banana, you're like, that's not the word, that's not the set name for that sort of thing that I know of, unless, wait.
We also should take into account that we have shared perception as well. Like we don't only have our subjective, vision and hearing. We also have weights and balances. We have chemical understanding of how these things work. We have more perception than just our own physical senses.
Okay, good point. Good point. I would argue that if it were the case, I'm not saying it's necessarily this way, but imagine this. If it were the case that each individual were rendering reality on multiple planes, they were rendering a space reality and they were rendering a time reality. And if it were the case that the space reality necessitated by its very nature that once rendered that location, because space is all about location, be rendered in ways that are consistent with the existing rendering. So in other words, consistent with the original reality's renderer.
What's the original reality? So are we defining
The
original reality?
original reality is space object. Space object, by definition, by nature, that reality is something that persists until force is acted upon it of some sort. So it necessitates something that is consistent between agents when they choose to render not only in time but in space as well. When they choose to render in that rendered meta-reality, which is say like form in which one might create realities, then their renderings become Their renderings force other reality renderers to adjust around them, so to speak, such that they have to render that something that's already there can't be re-rendered
The
that
space
space. That
object makes
space.
the space object forces others to frame their perception of it around that. Is that what you're saying?
No, the reality rendering. The original reality rendering. The fact that reality still exists within the agent who rendered it, and we never have an opportunity for you can imagine if in fact there did exist a space on Earth that nobody knew about, nobody had seen, nobody had observed, right? And then somebody goes in to observe that new space on Earth that had heretofore been unobserved. One cannot eliminate the possibility that upon going there, the agent is rendering any number of possible realities, and that it's not set ahead of time which reality he renders
Well,
until it's rendered.
that's just speculation. That you would be rendering the traits of the environment.
My
What about
point is it's no less speculative than the other thing. Sorry to interrupt.
what about the very fact that we've already been in one existence? We are in an existence that is defined. You know, so there are many possibilities of one unobserved area being a certain way. But we've already observed that we exist. We exist in this universe. So therefore, everything that is in this universe is what we can perceive, right?
But the key question, yes, sure, I think mostly, but the key question is why is it that in time objects, in our heads, in our stories, we can have things that more or less violate the law of non-contradiction, such that I could write a story in which Little Red Riding Hood, instead of being eaten by the wolf, kills the wolf and eats the wolf. And those two stories can exist concurrently in a sort of timeless, forever time. And they don't, and the time objects themselves, outside of however it is they're stored or whatever, but the abstract time objects that we refer to, that we share, that we have in our head, the story of Little Red Riding Hood is a shared time object. Those stories can exist concurrently in our head as distinct time objects without contradicting or conflicting with each other.
Doesn't mean they're both
However,
real.
What's that?
Doesn't mean they're both real. So abstract.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that the objects in that realm behave according to a different set of laws than the objects in space. So the core question is why, which is what you're trying to get at with the essence thing. Okay, I'm setting up the framing of things. I'm not making any arguments yet. Do you agree that's the core question? Why are time objects subject to a different law than space objects?
I think I have the answer to that, and that would be because this may have even been what you were arguing, but so basically how I view it, or how I view it in my head, is that they're like the spatiotemporality aspects of objects in the external world are defined by our perception, but those objects exist within the external world beforehand. They just aren't defined yet. They still exist, but the traits they're exhibiting traits out into the external world, but until they're perceived, it's not manifested because we give the time and space to the objects. So it's more or less just information. Now the reason I think
we give the space to the objects, not the time. They don't have duration.
now the sure they do.
Space objects?
Yeah,
No.
everything
Only
in the
time
external world
objects
has.
have duration. What?
Well, okay, I think the semantics are okay. I'm not saying that. Okay, I'm saying objects in the external world have time to them, right? Like
They're affected by they change over the course of time. It's true, but they change because forces act upon them. But time objects have duration. They take time to experience. It doesn't take time to experience banging your knee into the table, really. It doesn't take time to experience the table, the object, quote unquote, to have that space object experience.
okay, well, let me finish my thought real quick, and then we'll
All
address
right,
it.
I'm sorry for interrupting. My bad. Go ahead.
The reason I suspect that there's an essence behind things is because, for some reason, okay, if we assume that there is no essence behind objects and they are defined by their external impressions of the environment, that would imply that if only one individual perceived an object, then manipulating their perception of the object would fundamentally change it at a fundamental level. It would change at a fundamental level. But that isn't true even when there's only one person perceiving an object. So there has to be some essence that's giving off traits that does have a defined set, but things in the abstract or that we can think about aren't. They don't have an essence the same as something externally does because you can manipulate it in your head, right? Now there's some answers to this that are possible. One, we are continuously projecting a sort of subjective force to the external world that defines things into sets, like you said. So even when there's only one person perceiving an object, it isn't changed by the people around it as well.
It
You know?
can't be the case, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The first one about the one person perceiving only. Because if the one person perceives it only, we have no way of ascertaining whether or not what you said is true, unless that one person is observed perceiving it, which changes the rules.
Well, if we have one person perceiving the object and they see it this particular way, and someone comes by and perceives it as well, and they both and the person who was originally perceiving it agrees it is the same, then I think that would right there would prove it.
But your proof is predicated on there just being one person perceiving it, and you just added a second person, which invalidates your proof.
How? How's it invalidate?
Are we still arguing the predication that we're going by subjective sense, like perception as an object?
But we're talking about whether things we perceive as objects are really there, quote unquote, and we are perceiving something, or whether in fact we are. I still think the core question is the one I asked, which is why are time bodies different from space bodies. But the other way to put it is how and why would essence be different from matter? Because is this just matter that I've identified that we both agree is a torch?
I would argue that the matter is projected from the essence of the object. And the reason that there needs to be an essence is because if there wasn't an essence there, then the traits would be subject to our own subjective manipulation. And it wouldn't be fundamentally the same.
Just because I'm in the scientific camp, I'd say there's no difference between matter and essence. I wouldn't say there is. There is.
Perhaps. Well, I think essence would be essence isn't exactly. I don't view essence as something that's like. Essence would be our. It may just be like a cognitive. It not necessarily exists like outside of our perception and outside of the external world. It could just be the way by which we cognitively process it. The way we cognize objects, right? So.
I think where your strongest argument for essence would be about the human itself.
The what? You could not.
The human body is an object. The human body is an object. The notion that that might have an essence, it seems much stronger and easier to defend than a rock or some external object.
I'm not. Essence is not metacognition though. That's not what I'm. Essence would be.
I know, but I'm saying if you want to find an object, then it's easier to prove that there might be something called an essence beyond simply that the object exists beyond quote-unquote subjective experience. Start with the human body, right? No, rock is not better to understand because you have to break down the notion that somehow an external rock is a different kind of object than a human body. They're both objects in space, right?
Well, the argument for the human body. Okay.
Yes, File Skies. Go ahead, Zach.
Well, okay. Look at it this way. If let's start with the human body then. Okay. I perceive myself into the external world. If I try to cognize and change the fundamental nature of my body, it doesn't change. So that implies there's some sort of external restrictions on my essence, on my matter. There's some external restrictions on the matter. And the essence of myself is what projecting those traits into the external world.
What if instead of what you said, that it implies that there's constraints placed upon your ability to transmorph your own body by the perceptions of others, which lock it into place?
What about it?
Lock you down. That if you weren't being perceived by others as static and unchanging, that you would be able to just with your mind change your hand into a club.
Well, I'm arguing
Warm
that
up.
I'm arguing
Yeah,
that
but
you
that
couldn't do
would
that. I'm arguing you couldn't do
that,
that.
that would be contingent on like everyone's models, internal models of reality changing.
Hmm.
No,
Like if your
in my
hand were
opinion,
to turn
in
into
my
a
opinion,
club.
everyone's got slabs, different slabs. Some of the slabs are so widely shared that it becomes impossible to have counter slabs that violate that without violating fundamental axioms of humanity. Okay, and so then those slabs, everyone's personal slabs, have to build up around some of those big slabs that get imprinted in early childhood. It's a slabs thing, John. Slabs.
I'm not sure I understand the
So,
slab.
so you're saying people's models of reality just happen to intersect. That's the argument.
Well, I'm saying they have to grow while accommodating for each other's reality models. So, like, there's when a whole bunch of people share a certain reality model, like, for example, stabbing toddlers in the face is bad. If you start to build your personality up, and for whatever reason you're fucked up, you're like really early on, like you're 6, 7 years, you're like, when I grow up, what do you want to do? What do you want to be, Eric? I want to be a toddler face stabber. Well, you're going to get a lot of pushback from the community, right? No, Eric, that's not an okay job. But I really, really want to stab toddlers in the face with a big knife.
I think this is a. I don't think this is a correct analogy here.
Okay, well, what is then? I mean,
What
look,
was
the
this
point
analogy?
is,
Because
you're trying to
morality is
describe? I'm
subject to
sorry.
manipulation. Morality is subject to manipulation. The external impressions of objects or their matter isn't.
but the point is, certain axioms in life have a lot more weight and significance for most people than others, right? You can be weird in certain ways, and then other ways which are harmless, other ways are creepy, right? We all understand some of these rules. And most of us, almost everybody, adheres to most of the important rules, the big taboos. They won't even cross certain lines ever because you understand that you're at risk for social ostracization if you do cross those lines. Those are big, major slabs we each share. And
Okay, but
we have to, when we generate our identity out of the various stories and narratives and shit, those little slabs, those completed sets of ideas, have to fit in around the big slabs. And there's a bunch of intermediate-sized slabs we get from immediate family members and stuff that have varying weights, and all those things coordinate with our personality type. But to a certain extent, everything has to build up around these fundamental prohibitions.
Okay, but I mean, like the morality is kind of gray as a model. Like morality can be modeled, but what you have to model isn't much. I'm just trying. I'm failing to see the connection between modeling morality and modeling reality. That's where I have the problem.
Forget about morality. It's not about morality. What I'm saying is this.
But that's what you were making
That's what
example
you're arguing,
of.
though.
Those are the examples, right? But I'll give you different
Yeah, but
examples.
it's not a good example
There-
because there are very
All right,
concrete flaws
here's a
and rules
different.
to reality.
Forget morality. I'll give you a different example. It is not generally considered socially acceptable for me to go out with boxer shorts on, even though they're not any different than regular shorts, right? It is not a moral issue. Not generally considered to go for me to go outside, okay, with boxer shorts to 7-Eleven, no shirt on, and a big sunny hat with big flowers on it, and go in there and buy my cigarettes and walk out. People are going to think it's weird, okay? The point is, it's not a moral issue. It's nevertheless an axiom. If you're choosing to violate that axiom, you know your behavior is going to be interpreted in certain ways. It's going to play out certain ways. Those axioms necessarily define our behavior as human beings in conjunction with how our cognitive functions coordinate our instincts.
Okay, yeah. So if you were to make that analogy, fine. But so you can have people that model that as weird, or you can have the people that model that as like socially acceptable, fine. But at the same time, that action is still concrete. Just as there are concrete laws to physics.
Exactly. Regardless of
Yeah.
how people view it, no one would say you didn't.
It's
It
the
didn't
same
exist.
thing. Yeah.
And by thinking and by everyone thinking about like trying to change the physical attributes of you, it's not going to happen. That's why there are.
But that's the point. We're manifesting these slabs in two places. We're manifesting it in time reality. We're manifesting in space reality. Space reality definitionally means if we're going to manifest there, it has to have persistence. That requires we manifest that reality that it persists in ways that that resonate similarly in other people's realities. Otherwise, it's not space anymore. It's not space objects. And listen, Metasoap, this is Metasoap's favorite maneuver. Pia, 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 pia.
What's the maneuver?
And then I go, and she goes, let's not get into it.
So,
What? No, you want to fucking sit here and throw slaps at me all fucking night long, and then when I call bullshit, you go, oh, let's not get into it.
No. Okay, this is not Minnesota. This is Clark Kent. You know.
Oh, that's right. It's her Scandinavian sister, Files
Skies.
File Skies. Oh.
See, you've
Well-
been rejected. I'm sorry.
See, now we're disagreeing again.
Okay, so you're trying to argue for the persistence of space objects. I think we're all in agreement with that in the first place. Like,
I'm saying they're definitionally what you say requires there to be an essence. I'm saying you're just saying that things persist.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm saying the
that's-
reason that they persist is because there's an essence projecting their traits onto the nature or the external world. And my argument for that is because we can't decide to change it fundamentally by just thinking about it, by manipulating our subjective perception. Therefore, there has to be something that, I guess the essence would be like the laws of physics, so to speak. Or
yeah. So you want to say that there is physical laws beyond just what we can perceive. That there are laws that govern there being certain physical laws.
right.
But how would it look? How would the world look different than what I'm saying if everything were merely constrained by the consensus reality rendering?
Well, then
in
you
accordance with the laws of a defined space object as indicated.
then you could, if it wasn't static, is that what you're saying?
If in fact that the staticness of reality
Was defined by perception.
was constrained. That you were constrained. That if you were not constrained, you would be able to change this thing into a banana. Except you guys won't stop recognizing it as scissors. If all you guys would stop thinking of this as scissors,
Well, I don't think that's true. Like I don't think that the reason I don't think it's true is because of the essence thing.
okay, well, I want you guys all to have complete faith that this is a banana. Okay.
Well, that would require like everyone to like change their perception, wouldn't it? Because we're all.
Okay, well, look, what I'm going to do then is this. I'm going to find an object that's very unfamiliar. Okay? That almost nobody knows what it is. Okay? And I'm going to show it to you guys. And I'm going to say it's something that does something that looks similar to what it is. And then after you guys believe me that's what it is, I will try to believe really hard that's what it is and see with our observer pool limited whether I can change it into that thing.
I didn't sign up for the Church of Scientology.
Yeah.
There's a test. Hey, this is how we falsify my theory.
Well, I think like
Probability changes the object is observed.
probability changes as the object is observed.
Yeah, that is.
That's not the
There you go.
point. I like my idea. I'm going to change matter into different things by getting other people to believe that something other than what it is.
But then are you changing it, or are you just changing the name of it?
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I want to physically change it.
I
I
know
want to be
this
the
is-
only one. I want to be the only one who
fine.
knows at the beginning that it actually originally had a different physical shape. But by convincing, like inside of this box is a twisty thing. It's not really that. It's really a straight thing. and then convince people every day without looking inside the box that I'm telling the truth about it, so that they all believe that's what's inside the
I
box.
think you kind of ruined your experiment by defining it as a straight thing.
And then, well, see, and then I have to convince myself that I was lying to myself about being straight, that it's actually twisty.
So that's all just deception.
Yes, but see, what I'm saying is, if I can convince the only other observers that it's actually twisty without them seeing it, so that in their head they observe the twisty thing, and then I can pull off the magical trick of actually believing 100% in my heart that it's twisty inside, that it will become physically change from straight to twisty, and then I have to have a note in the box that said, this used to actually be straight, to remind myself, because now I believe.
Oh my god.
Who thinks that would work?
I'm saying it wouldn't work because of the essence thing. Which I mean, I think okay. When Mega Bro, if and when Mega Bro watches video, I think he thinks that by essence I mean like Plato's forms, and that's not exactly what I mean. I mean that there are obvious like external restrictions on our perception, and because of that, that's why I think there must be some governing existence behind the explicit impressions that objects give off, that entities that exist give off.
Why would you think that the objects imply restrictions on our perceptions, but you wouldn't be okay with the notion that the perceptions of other imply restrictions or constrictions or constraints or whatever?
Hmm. I guess there's no way to know for sure. I guess either way there are restrictions. That's a good question. I have to think about that for a while to come to an answer.
Me too, actually.
You wanna wrap this video up?
Are you been recording this?
Yeah.
This wasn't our planned topic, was it? Did we
I
get off
don't even think we
topic?
had a planned topic. I think we were just kind of talking about stuff. But
I think Metaphysics had a good topic. What was it, though?
I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up and upload it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Metaphysics, yay!